in this show, we're going to sew a cathedral window quilt block. You're going to love it. So go ahead and go into the chat, social lounge. Live trivia is coming up soon. So let's have a great time. Stay tuned. Hey Gifted Crafters, welcome back for another Saturday CrafterNoon. Thank you all for tuning in. See, the chat is just blowing up. You guys are having a blast and I see you're enjoying the trivia, so that makes me really happy. Thank you all again for taking the time to spend this hour with me. So if you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ, and I like to kind of just do this weekly live session to talk about all things crafting. We touch upon different types of crafts every week, so you never know what I'm going to do. We do things like sewing, knitting, crocheting, decoupage, and so much more. We just kind of blend all kinds of crafts together. So it's just a great place to go to get some ideas. Maybe you have a little Etsy shop or you have a little craft fair coming up and you're looking for some ideas. This is a great place to do it. And I like to kind of just share all my tips, trips, and ideas. So feel free to jump into the chat, say hello to a couple of friends, and just, have a great time. Because this is just a really nice place to just kind of learn a couple of things and, just enjoy ourselves. So let me jump right into the chat and say hello to some of my crafting friends out there. I see Amy Bullis. I see Annette. I see Boricua Sewing and Crafts, Cheryl Lee, Crafting with Robin, Donna Phillips, Jackie Hallman, Judy Bauer, Marlene Corbett, 1 Minute Tips, Rita Edge, Robin's Quilt Basket, Sassy, Yvonne Hudson, and Annette Gentile. I think I got you guys all. I'm not sure. It was kind of scrolling, so I couldn't tell if I missed you. Sorry, but I'll try to just keep checking in the chat on there. So if you have any questions on anything, I'll be jumping in and out of the chat to see if I can help answer some of those, or maybe some of our little fellow gifted crafters can help you out there as well. So I'm excited today because I have a couple of new toys that I'm going to be testing out today. So I hope you guys really enjoy them. Let's just kind of wrap up some of my other things that I like to let you guys know about, and that's the holidays. So we have a couple of holidays, little bit of odd holidays for me. It is National Tortilla Day. So I guess if you're into tortillas, hey, it's National Tortilla Day. And it is also Open That Bottle Day. So I see my sister's on there. I think she'll like that one. Alrighty. Also, we've got some things going on. So QuiltCon 2024 is going on in North Carolina right now. I believe it started on Wednesday. So that's going on. If you're in that area, you may want to drop in and see what's going on. I've seen a couple of videos and little pictures and got some friends that are out there and having a blast. A little bit far from me because I'm tuning in from sunny South Florida. So it would be kind of a hike. But I am excited to go to a next event that is going to be the Sewing and Quilting Expo, and that will be in Lakeland, Florida in March 14th, 15th, and 16th. So I'm excited to do that one. Alrighty. So if you tuned in last week, we kind of made some little sewing cushions, and this is just one of the many that I had on hand that we made. They're quick, they're easy, they're fun little projects, and they're great sellers. So if you didn't catch that live, that was live number 78. So you can tune in and see that one. It was quick and easy, and anyone can do this. It's really, really that easy, and I think it's great. And it's very useful. You can use stick your pins in here, and you can kind of carry it around if you're going on a retreat or something like that. It's really, really nice, quick, simple little project to do. Okay, so what do we have this week? Well, if you saw the little preview, what we're going to be talking about is making the Cathedral window block. And as you can see here, this is what it looks like. I just made a couple of them. And I think they're fun. They're really fun projects. And, at first I thought this is just really way complicated. I don't know if I'll be able to do this, but I think if you follow the steps that I'll show you today, anyone can make this. These are really easy to make, and you can make them in all different sizes. So I'm going to show you one size that I'm making today, but you can make them into itty-bitty 2.5 little squares, or you can make them into these big jumbo. I mean, these are 5-inch. You can do 10-inch. I mean, you can just go to town with this. It's so simple, and they're really easy and fun to make. You can do all kinds of colors. I've seen some amazing ones that have come out that are really gorgeous. Now, I'm just using some scrap fabric that I have lying around, and that's what I'm using this for. And at the end, you can kind of put these together. You can make a great little quilt or a table runner. I mean, the ideas will just go on and on and on. I mean, it's really amazing. It's so nice and easy to do. You can flip them. You can see how things change every time I just kind of turn it. I mean, it's just amazing. So much fun, so many different uses, and so easy to make. And I'm going to show you how. So we're going to just need a couple of things, and I'm going to be using a couple of my little gadgets, because, you know, sometimes we have these gadgets in our sewing room, and then I kind of forget that I have them, and then it's kind of like, oh, they would make your life so much easier. So I want to try to bring out some of those gadgets and use them. You don't have to, and I'll let you know what they are, but I think they're fun. They're fun to use. We have them, you know, makes your life sometimes a little easier, so why not? So let's see. I'm going to make this cathedral block with you, and the first thing I'm going to bring out is my little rotary cutting mat, which kind of spins around. Now, they have a really nice one. It's called the Rotelli one. That one is really nice, but it's pretty pricey. So I haven't kind of bought myself up to kind of buy that one yet. It is over $100. It's like $120 for that one. It is a nice one though, because you can iron on it, you can cut on it, it spins, it's really neat. But I'm just using the Omni Grid mat, and you can get this in Joann's. You can get it in any of those craft stores. Really easy. It kind of, once you kind of set it down, like I have it down on my mat right now, and I have a little bit of a suction to it, so it's not wanting to pick up, and of course I can give it a little more force and it will come up, but I do like it that it spins around and I'm able to cut a lot easier and not kind of lose my place when I'm doing things. So that's what I'm going to be using, because, you know, again, we have these tools and I just forget to use them. So one of the things I'm going to use to make my quilt block is I'm going to use this Created Squares. These are just something you can get at Walmart. I mean, there's tons that are out there. I love Kona. That's kind of like one of my favorite fabrics to use, but I didn't have any on hand and I didn't want to kind of just go out and get some more stuff. So I'm just using what I got. And this is the Created Square. There's 20 pieces, 5 designs for each, and these are 5 inches by 5 inches. And I've got some open here already. So let me just bring some out. And just to make one block, you're going to need 4 of these. So I'm going to lay out 4 different ones because we want 4 different colors going on here. So let's lay that out. Okay, I like to kind of put these 2 darks, since they're so dark, I kind of want to do them opposite so they don't kind of overlap each other, and then 2 lighter ones in between. So I think that kind of looks good. The other thing you're going to need is, now I'm using 5 inches, so you don't have to use 5 inches. You can use whatever size you want, but you do have to make sure that your sizes are consistent. So if you're using 5 inches for this, the second part that you're going to need is a different color. So let me just show you. Where did I put the block? There it goes. So let's lay this side by side so you guys get an idea. So we're going to need the same size square that you're doing for your backgrounds. You're going to need the same size for your little windows here. Okay, so make sure that if it's 5-inch squares that you're using, that you're going to also use 5-inch squares for the window part. Okay, because you want to make sure that you don't have different sizes. Ask me how I know. I'm going to show you. So when I first looked at this, of course, I was playing around and wasn't really doing much, and this was kind of like a real scrappy, let me just see what this looks like kind of thing. And so I ended up with this. And this one, I mean, it's not sewn perfect at all. This is just kind of like me playing around to see what it does. I did use the back end ones, the back end fabrics, and then I had the window, and then I used a very small square in the middle, so you could see kind of all this here, which I guess could be another type of look. So it's not totally horrible. So I was kind of like, oh, well, you know, that could be a totally different design. So, you know, you do you. It, you know, it really doesn't matter. It's going to come out beautiful either way. So this is what's going to happen if you pick a square size that is smaller than the ones that you are using for the project. So you can see that, yeah, looks completely different than this one. You see here where the window is completely covered here, where this one it is not. And you can see, I mean, you can see the fold. It's not a big deal. It's just a different type of look. But I thought that I would point that out to you just so you can see, you know, if you want to change it up, that's one way that you can do it. So let's go ahead, and I've got my 5-inch squares that I'm using from that charm pack. And then I had to cut 5-inch squares here, but I actually only had 6 inches, so I need to go ahead and cut off another inch on this. And so what I wanted to do was kind of just show you something here that I see some people make mistakes on. And when you are subcutting down to a size, you know, I'll just cut this. This is a rough cut. And then I'll kind of subcut down to the size that I'm looking to do. Now, I went ahead and I starched my fabric, because if you don't starch your fabric, you're going to notice that, well, although you think you cut it correctly, you'll notice that it doesn't really stay cut correctly, right? It actually looks a little like it's warped somewhat. And this is kind of an example I wanted to show you on that. So here's one where I cut it first and I didn't starch it. I did starch it now just because I know I'm going to cut it again to show you, but I wanted you guys to kind of see that. So if you look, and maybe it's a little difficult to see with the camera, I'm going to try to line it up here. You can see here, and it's probably more noticeable on this end here. So I'm going to try to bring this up so you could see it. So you can see here I've laid my square out, but this side is a little bit off. It's like maybe 1/8 of an inch actually short of the size. So because I didn't starch my fabric and I went ahead and I just cut it, the fabric kind of moves a little bit, right? Like you can tug it and it stretches a little bit. So the whole reason why I like to really starch my fabric is kind of to make it a little bit more stiff. So the stiffness of the fabric makes it a lot easier for you to be able to cut it to size and not have it move around so much on you. And so I cut it without starching it, and I see that, yeah, it does move around on me. Then I went ahead and I starched it a little bit now, and I'm going to go ahead and just subcut this now with you guys. But I just wanted to show that, you know, because that is one of the mistakes that I often see a lot. And, you know, you'll just want to be careful with that. So let me just subcut this. Now, when you are subcutting, right now this measures about 6 inches square. I want to get it down to 5 inches. So I am not going to just line up my edge here and then cut. I could do that, yes. But because I know that this fabric probably moved and, you know, I want it to kind of stay right at the 5 inches. I don't want it to move. I think it's better for me to cut on all 4 sides to make sure that I'm getting a crisp, clean cut. So let's just go ahead and do that. And the way I do that is I know that I'm going to cut 1 inch off. So what I'm going to do is cut 1/2 inch on this side and 1/2 inch on the other side. That way, both sides are getting cut. They're nice and clean, and I'll be, you know, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch makes the inch that I need to get out of here, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Oh, I see a bunch of people are big starchers. Okay, Sassy's asking, did you use spray starch? Yes. Let me see if I have it here still. This is the one. There's all kinds of different brands. This is Faultless is one that I use. This one is fine. There's all kinds of brands out there. It's just, this one's a heavy starch. So, I mean, you could use all kinds of brands out there, but, you know, I'm not really a brand favorite for starch. I think it's just, I do have Best Press that I like to use a lot. I love the smell of it. So that's, I guess, one of my favorites. But for this one, I just used that and it worked fine. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's measure out here. I'm going to line up my bottom because I want to make sure my ruler's nice and straight. And I am going to go ahead and I'm just going to take off maybe close here to about 1/2 inch here. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to be cutting from this side. So I know that I am about 1/2 inch in. So that'll be cutting a little bit here, and then I'll cut the rest on the other side. Now I can see that it's not totally lined up, so that's why this is a great way to kind of fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here. Put my hands down, fingers on the rulers, pressing down, not to the top or the bottom, just straight down, press it down. Have your rotary cutter ready to go, and then just go ahead and press down. And you're going to want to get that out. Now, the best thing about this mat is I get to kind of rotate it here. And I don't really have to pick up my ruler. So if I would have lined up my ruler towards the end here, I wouldn't have to do anything and I'd be able to just cut right away. So I didn't do that, and that's okay. It's really just a matter of preference. So again, you know, you're going to want to do 5 inches here. So I'm going to do about 1/2. Let me line this up. And let's go ahead and cut that out. And I'm going to turn it again. And line it up. Now I'm getting close. I've gotten my 2 sides in, so now I can line up my ruler towards the end, and I'm gonna go ahead and line it up this way. Nope, we got 5 inches. So let's line it up here. I usually do this standing up so I can see over, so it's a little difficult for me right now, but that's okay. And let's turn it one last time. Let's go ahead and line this up again. And there you go. And so you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches that way. The whole 5 inches is underneath the ruler, which is how I like to do it. So I know now that this is a nice, perfect 5-inch square, which is exactly what I need for this project. Okay, so now that we've got that one cut up and I've already done the other ones, we're ready to start this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my little mini iron. And let me see if I can plug this in here. Get that going. And let's bring over our little ironing board here. Okay. Let's move this out of the way. Alrighty. Okay, so I am going to just give these a quick press just because I just like to press my fabrics before, and you know, these were already pressed earlier and starched, so I'm fine with these. So I'm just gonna give it another quick press really quick. Okay, so these are the 4 squares that I'm going to be using for the background. So what we're going to do now, we're going to set these over to the side because we do have to do a little bit of prep work for the window. And this is where the starch really comes in handy. So you see here, it's a lot stiffer. Like you can see how I'm moving the fabric around and it is stiff. And you can kind of almost hear it. You can feel the stiffness and you can see how the fabric is reacting now, which is great because we want it to be stiff so that it kind of stays right where we want it. So I'm going to go ahead and take my square and I am going to fold it over, and you're going to want to make this triangle. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to finger press it first. Then I'm just going to grab the iron and just give it a quick little press. And you're going to do that for all 4 of them. So go ahead and grab your next one. Fold it over as best you can. You want to try to hit that point if you can. Sometimes it's a little bit off and you can just refold it. Then just hit it with that iron so it kind of stays in place. And I'll do that with the next 2. Here we go. And if you don't get it the first time, just go back and iron it again. Very forgiving project. Now, you would think that this project looked difficult, but actually it is not. Once you get the hang of it, I mean, you can make a ton of these. You really can. There we go. All right. So now you've got your little triangles here, and now this is where the fun stuff starts, right? So we're going to go ahead and lay this out again. I'm going to show you guys exactly what we're going to need to do here. So just visually, so you understand what we need to do. Now you're going to lay these out like so. Okay. Can you see how that kind of comes together? So you just have your triangles and then it makes that little square. Right? So you just lay that out here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to stack these together, and you're going to bring it to your sewing machine, and we're going to sew them up. So now this is a little odd because you would think, oh, there's different ways you can do it, right? So if you're pretty good at this, you can kind of do it this way, and then you stack it, and you think that's how we're going to make them, but we're not. What we're going to do is we're going to take our triangle and we're going to put it on top of the other triangle. And you're going to line them up right on top, making sure that point to point, they are right on top of each other. And you're going to take your square and you're going to make sure that you have the triangles on top of the square exactly how you want them to be. And I'm going to move these over to the side so you guys can clearly see this. Maybe I'll take this out. That might help. So again, we've got the square on the bottom. You've got a triangle here. And then you've got the second triangle right on top. So they're all stacked on top of each other. Okay, then you're going to take your other square and you're going to plop it on top. So you have like a little half square sandwich there. And what we're going to do, we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance going across just one of the sides here. Okay, so now when you bring this over to your sewing machine, you can pin it. You don't want it shifting around on you. I'm just gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and wing it this way, so hopefully it doesn't shift too much, but go ahead and pin it if you like so that it doesn't move around. Now we're going to be trying out our little sew cam. So we've got a little sew cam this time, and hopefully this works so you guys can really see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna try to, let's see if you guys can see that. I'm gonna check since I was moving this around. It seems like everything is in place. Maybe move my top square a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Oops, sorry. I think I bumped that there. And I'm going to line this up. And let me just grab my sewing pedal here. And I'm just using 2.5 of my stitch width, stitch length here. It doesn't really have to be 2.5, it can be 3, but I'm gonna go ahead and use 2.5. And let's give this a whirl. I think you guys can see everything. Let me know if you can't or if it's looking a little wobbly. Hoping you guys can see it. This is the first time we're using our sew cam, so I'm excited about that because now we get to do more projects and I get to show you guys more things. So now I'm going to go ahead and drop my needle down and I'm going to go ahead and sew this. And all I'm doing is making sure that it stays nice and straight. Okay, and that's it, guys. So you'll see, get a nice 1/4 inch seam here, and I can just hit it with the iron a little bit. And when you open it up, you should have your squares. Got a lot of little fuzzies here. And 2 squares here. So you can see how that got put together and it's nice, meeting nice in the point on the top. Now, what we're gonna need to do is I'm gonna open this up and lay it flat on my little ironing board. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the seam allowance on the inside and I'm gonna finger press this open. And here's where one of my other little gadgets are going to come in handy because I barely use it because I'm always using my fingernails. But if you have one, this is just a little roller, and it does help you keep that seam allowance open. So it kind of helps you, you know, if you don't want to use your fingernails. It's kind of nice. I barely use it, but because I forget that I even have it, but it's nice to kind of keep that there. You know, so it helps open that up. Then I'm just going to hit this with the iron. And I want to make sure my seam stays nice and open. So I'm going to hit that. And if you have a clapper, that's another great tool that you can use to help keep those seam allowances open. So once I hit it with the iron, I like to go ahead and just put the clapper on top. That's going to really help to keep that seam down. It really does help. And you can see here, it's laying nice and flat. And then I'm going to go ahead and flip this around. And I'm going to give it another little press here. And hit that with the clapper a little bit. And that's it. So we're good to go on one of them. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. So put this over to the side. And so here's the other two squares that we have. Let's see here. We've got these two. So I want to make sure my blues are alternating there. So I'm going to do it this way. And we want to make sure that it's lined up correctly. So now we're going to stack them. So here's my bottom square. I'm going to bring this corner to corner here. Stack these up. And then stack this one right on top. Okay, now if you are using a print fabric, just know that you will have to sew this right side down, because then we'll open it up and then your print will show on the other side. I am just using the fabric with both sides are exactly the same. They're just plain fabrics, so it really doesn't matter for me, but you definitely may want to just kind of do it face down if you're using that directional one. Now, I think I moved it, so let me just do this over again here. There we go. And there's the sandwich. Definitely would recommend pinning it. I'm just, for sake of time, I'm trying to do it quickly so that we make the hour, but I would definitely pin it down just to have everything stay in place. So now let's go back to our sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and bring my foot down. Now every sewing machine is different. You need to kind of know where your 1/4 inch seam allowance would line up. I line it up against my sewing foot here. That'll bring me with my needle in the position that it is in, which is actually the center right now, will give me that 1/4 inch seam. But you have to find, depending on your machine, where that 1/4 inch needs to be. So you may need to line it up here. Some people line it up on the inside of the foot. It really depends on your machine. So now that we've got this lined up, I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead. Let's just bring this down. Okay, bring my needle up, lift up my presser foot. Once again, nice little 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to set my seam, and then I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to flip it to the back and open up the seam allowance back here. So kind of start it with my hands a little bit. Again, let me grab my little roller. It does help. Grab my iron. And just lay that flat. Just kind of get it as best you can. It's just nice to reduce the bulk because it does get pretty bulky towards the end. Go ahead and hit that with the clapper. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. Hit that again. Okay. And now you've gotten to the point that you're ready to kind of combine these two together. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and flip these over. And now that you have your seams nice and open, we're going to line up our seams together. And it makes it a little bit easier to find your seam and make sure that you are all lined up. And so we're going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and we're just going to do a 1/4 inch seam going all the way across to kind of bring this together. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back over to the machine. Line it up. Again, I would recommend that you pin this. I'm just kind of winging it here for sake of time, but I would prefer pins. Just go ahead and start on the end here. Bring down that needle. And just kind of grab the end here, making sure everything's nice and lined up. And I think we're ready to go. Now, when you get closer to the seam, this is where you want to just make sure that everything's nice and lined up again. Make sure nothing shifted on you. And you want to make sure your seams are laying nice and flat. So you're going through a lot of bulk there. So you may want to just slow down a little bit as you approach. That way it doesn't stress out your machine so much. You see how you kind of heard all of that? I tried to speed up there so you guys could hear the difference when your sewing machine's really struggling like that. So other than that, once you've passed the bulk, you can go ahead and continue to sew. And I slipped a little bit here. Just going to grab that, line that up again. There we go. Alrighty, so let's go ahead. Again, I'm gonna hit the iron, set our seams, and then we're gonna go ahead and open this up. I forgot to cut my threads here. Just grab my little thread cutter. And you'll see how you have a nice square there in the middle. Now I'm going to flip it over. Again, we have all this bulk here, so you want to open up that seam and have it lay nice and flat. So I'll do one side at a time. Again, bring my little roller in here. Help bring that down. Then I'll grab my iron. And I just do one side at a time. There we go. Then grab that clapper, set that seam down so it stays nice and flat. And then I'm going to go ahead and work the other side while I leave that clapper there. Because it is a lot of bulk that you're going through. Try to open that up. Put that clapper away. And again, grab the roller. And the roller just kind of helps to set it open. You know, so it makes it a little bit easier when you bring that iron over. I just bring my clapper. Nice and set. And then I'm just going to flip it over and make sure that my seams are nice and flat as possible. I'm going to go ahead and iron that down. Okay. All right. So now you're almost there. You've gotten to this point. And so what you're going to want to do is go ahead and you're going to pull one more square out. So if you look at our little sample here, I have a colored square here in the middle. You can fussy cut and get little characters or little things. That would be a cute little thing if you wanted to make like a themed type quilt, maybe a little teddy bear or something like that. Really, really cute. You can do that. Or you can just pick, you know, any color of your choice. So I had this color here. I can do alternating colors. I picked a darker color last time. It really is up to you what you want to do and how you want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick randomly another blue here. So let's pick this one. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just give it a quick little press here. I like to kind of do both sides. Okay. And then you're going to take your square and you're going to kind of turn it. And you're going to put this square on top. So it's actually going to look like this. Okay. And you'll want to see point to point, making sure that it's nice and squared off. There we go. Now, if you're going to be making a quilt, you can kind of do a quilt as you go technique. And at this point, I would get my batting and my back fabric, and then I would do the rest of these steps with the 3 layers together. And that would make a really nice design in the back. So I don't really know if you could see it very well because I used white thread. And this is the back of this quilt. So imagine if I had my batting and another piece of fabric on top. When I stitched it out, you would see this thread that is going to seal the window part of the quilt. And that's what you would see on the other side of that back fabric. So if you want to use this as a quilt, you can go ahead and do that. Get the batting, get the back fabric, layer it up with this on top, and then bring all of this to your sewing machine to do the rest of these steps. Or if you're just making a quick little block, or maybe you're just not going to use batting and it's just going to be one layer, then you can totally leave it the way it is. So what we're going to do at this point, I'm going to go ahead and clip my threads there, is you're going to take that white fabric that you've sewn, so these were those squares, those triangles, and you're going to kind of pull it towards the inside. And you see how it kind of bends, so you'll want to make sure your fabric is laying down flat. And because we had that triangle, you now have the bias end. So because of the bias, you're able to kind of do this little curve, which makes it really nice. And that's what would be the beginning of that window. Now, it could get a little tricky kind of holding this down and making sure nothing is moving. So what I'm going to do just for this piece, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin my middle fabric just so it doesn't move around on me. And then I am going to use some glue. Now, just Elmer's glue. not anything special. So just grab some glue that you have on hand. This is just going to help me give a temporary hold onto this little window piece so that I can bring it to my sewing machine and make this more of a permanent state. So what I do here is I'm going to take this glue, and you're not using a lot, very, very little. Just take some little dabs of glue here. Just grab this open. And okay, my little glue's not there. Hold on. It might have dried up a little bit. Let me just grab something on the side here. There. I think it just dried up a little bit. There we go. I think now we've got it working. And so I'm going to use a little dab of glue. You can do little dots. You can do a very thin little line. You can see I'm not using that much at all. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. So go ahead and do the curve. Just hold it down for a couple seconds. And then I'm going to grab my iron and I'm going to hit it with the iron. This is just going to help keep it in place until I can get it to the sewing machine and sew it down. So you can do one at a time like this, or you can do all four of them. I'm going to go ahead and do all of them. So go ahead and grab this end. Go ahead and turn that. There we go. I like to finger press it a little bit. Get my glue. Couple of dabs here. Just to hold it in place for me. Hold it down with my hands. And then just hit it with the iron. Then I'm going to rotate this again. Do the same thing again. Might hit this with a couple of drops here because it's wanting to open. So very, very little. You're not putting globs and globs of glue on here. Very, very little. This is just a temporary solution to hold it into place so that you can get it over to the sewing machine. And then just turn it. So please do not put like globs and globs of glue. Very, very little. Little tiny dots. That's all you need. It's just a temporary state. And just hold it down. Bring the iron back. There we go. And that's it. That's going to now just kind of hold it in place for me until I can get this over to my sewing machine. And then just kind of give it a little glance. See that if you got all the little corners. So it kind of allows you to kind of play with it a little bit. If you want to stretch it a little bit further, you know, maybe you're missing hitting the little points. So it's a little forgiving, and it's not at the permanent state yet. So if you don't like how it looks, you can take it out, fold it again, hit it with a little bit more glue, and then hit it with the iron. So this is why I like to I prefer to do this method so that I have a little bit more of forgiveness in case I didn't hit the points exactly the way I wanted to. So now let's take this over to the sewing machine. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sew this up. So hold on a second. Bring this over. Okay. Let me turn this way a little bit. Okay. So here we are. Let's start on this end here. Bring my threads to the back. Now you're going to want to sew as close as you can to this edge right here. Okay. This is the edge that you want to sew on. So it just requires you to move around a little bit on your machine. Now my needle is on the center, so I'm going to be following this guide right here, and I'm going to try to keep this as close to the edge as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, guys, so if it goes off a little bit, it's okay. It's going to look fabulous. So let's go ahead and try this out. And you're going to want to turn with the machine here. And you'll want to look to see what thread you're using as well. You know, you want to make sure you're kind of using a coordinating thread. So as I get to this corner, I'm going to go ahead and lift my presser foot a little bit, give it another little, and then I'm going to turn it. And it's just so that I can position myself where I need to be. So now here, my presser foot's a little bit getting away from me. There we go. Okay. And so here we are again. I'm going to go ahead and I'm doing this right on the edge. Okay, and if you go too far, just go ahead and back up a little bit. Lift up that presser foot and just scoot over again. And then you can keep going. Right on the edge of that. I keep losing my little sewing pedal, so my sewing is kind of like a little weird, wonky like. my foot keeps kind of slipping on me there. So I'm going to actually do one more, and then I'm gonna lift and just kind of position it. And you have to kind of play with the position, you know, until you get it where you want it to be. And that's what's really important. If you use that coordinating thread, you know, if you have little mistakes on there, they won't really show too much. So it's not too bad. Okay. And there we are. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this. And let me take off this little needle. And I'm going to go ahead and clip my threads off. And as you can see here, we have our little block. Really cute. Now I would probably want to square off the edges because I did use a charm pack. I have a little bit of that little fray, I guess, if you call it. So you may want to just clean that up a little bit. And now if you kind of just put these together, let's see. Let me bring this over. You have a few blocks that you can kind of put together. And this would make a really cute little project. You know, you can sew these together. Or there's other things that you can do to kind of continue this pattern. So there's so many different things you can do. But I just wanted to kind of show you guys what you can do with this. I mean, you could make a little pillow. You can do a table runner. You can make a quilt. There's just so many things that you can do. This thing is really a lot of fun, and I love the way you can change up the colors around, and you can make it so fun with fussy cutting. On here, you can do little designs in the middle. I mean, you can just really do a ton with this stuff. So I thought it was a really fun project, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Let's see. Let's see if I see any questions. These squares would make a gorgeous table runner. An embroidered design in the middle of each window would make a seasonal. Yes, or maybe a monogram. Awesome idea, Donna. I love that. Definitely. That would be really, really cute. Take that to your embroidery machine and, you know, do some beautiful work on here. It would be really, really beautiful. And again, at this point, if you now wanted to make it a quilt, you can still do that. And you can kind of resew on the same lines, or you can do some edge quilting here. I mean, you can just do so many things. You can just quilt the middle pieces, and that'll come out on the other side of the fabric. So much you can do. This is just a great little project, and it's a lot of fun. So, you know, I hope you guys really enjoyed my little tips. I think, you know, the glue really helps to hold things into place. So I would highly recommend that. I'd recommend using pins. So like I kind of winged it here, so it probably could have came out even a little better had I used the pins, but I was kind of worried about the time. And I know that we're kind of right at the hour, so I really appreciate all of you spending this time with me. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you really love the little tips that we have for these. They're really fun projects to make, and they would make a great seller. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.